April 15th, 2019. It was just another ordinary Monday in Paris. The tourists were capturing their last photos of the day, and the city was settling into that golden hour calm. It was an evening that was supposed to end with a peaceful sunset over the gentle waters of the Seine, but at 6:18 p.m., the atmosphere shattered. The entire world suddenly stood still in a state of collective shock. Right there, on live television, under the gaze of millions of terrified onlookers, the majestic heart of Europe was being consumed. Notre-Dame Cathedral, a symbol that had survived wars and revolutions, was engulfed in a ferocious, uncontrollable fire. So, we watched paralyzed as the unthinkable happened. The spire, 750-ton masterpiece of oak and lead, began to tilt. It was a symbol of grandeur, an architectural exclamation point that had defined the Parisian skyline for generations. As it snapped and plummeted into the fiery abyss below, it felt like 8 centuries of human history were being reduced to gray ash in a matter of seconds. We weren't just losing a building, it felt like we were losing our connection to the past. In the following days, when the fire finally died down and the acrid, suffocating yellow smoke cleared, a startling truth began to emerge from the wreckage. For nearly 9 centuries, this great cathedral had been hiding a secret. It had, in a sense, been lying to us. What the restorers and structural engineers discovered within those charred, blackened walls didn't just surprise the scientific community. It threatened to flip our entire understanding of the Middle Ages upside down. To truly grasp the magnitude of this discovery, we have to travel back 850 years. The year is 1163. Forget the city of light you see in travel brochures. Medieval Paris was a dense maze of cramped, muddy streets and wooden hovels. But amidst the chaos, Bishop Maurice de Sully had a vision of pure madness. He wanted to build a stairway to heaven, a structure so tall and light that it would defy the very laws of physics known at the time. Imagine the sheer scale of this intergenerational planning. The architects who laid the very first foundation stones knew with absolute certainty that they would never see the finished roof. They weren't just building a place of worship, they were sending a message into the deep future, a gift for their great-great-grandchildren. This wasn't a construction site, it was a mission that would span 182 years of continuous labor and devotion. Notre Dame was the laboratory where mature Gothic architecture was born. Before this, churches were Romanesque, heavy, squat, and gloomy. Architects lived in constant fear that the weight of stone vaults would simply push the walls outward and crush everything. But here, the flying buttresses changed everything. These iconic external stone ribs acted like giant hands, propping up the walls from the outside. They allowed the stone to become thin, and the interior to be flooded with divine light. But this light was engineered to be supernatural. Look at the great rose windows, 13 meters of intricate geometry. The formulas for these colors were guarded more strictly than the wealth of kings. These glass recipes were never written down, they were whispered from master to apprentice. To achieve that deep Notre Dame blue, they infused the glass with cobalt. For the blood red, they used real gold. A single degree of error in the furnace temperature meant the color would lose its soul forever. Now let's return to that fateful Monday evening, 6:20 p.m. Inside the attic, a high-tech smoke detector triggers an alarm. You would expect a 21st century security system to be the cathedral's ultimate shield. But human error intervened. A security guard misinterpreted the digital signal, sending a scout to the wrong part of the building. By the time they realized the mistake, 23 precious minutes had vanished. In the world of fire, 23 minutes is an eternity. When the firefighters finally climbed into the rafters, they were met with a literal inferno. They called the roof structure the forest. It was an intricate web of thousands of oak trees, all harvested in the 12th century. Many of those trees were already 300 or 400 years old when the medieval axes first touched them. This means the 2019 fire was literally devouring the organic remains of trees that were seedlings before the birth of Christ. The heat was beyond comprehension, peaking at over 800 degrees Celsius. The lead cladding on the roof began to liquefy. 400 tons of molten lead turned into a toxic silver lava. It streamed through the mouths of the stone gargoyles, looking like the burning tears of the devil himself. When the spire finally punched through the stone vaulting, The internal pressure was so great that the world held its breath, expecting the entire structure to pancake into the crypts. The fire crews were forced into a series of impossible, heartbreaking decisions. Do they focus on the fire, risking a total structural collapse? Or do they run into the burning nave to save the relics? They chose both. While some fought the flames, others formed a human chain to rescue the crown of thorns. That night, Notre-Dame survived by a razor-thin margin. And it was this near-death experience that finally allowed the cathedral to reveal its greatest engineering secret. As the first engineers cautiously stepped into the cooling ruins, they weren't looking for historical breakthroughs, they were just trying to see if the walls would fall. But then, an engineer noticed something impossible peeking through the cracks of the heat-damaged limestone. Long metallic strips were embedded deep within the 12th century masonry. Initially, they assumed these were 19th century repairs. After all, everyone knew that iron wasn't used as a primary structural element in the Middle Ages. But when archaeologist Maxime Héritier performed radiocarbon dating on the metal, the results left the room in silence. These iron staples weren't repairs. They were original. They had been placed there in the 1160s, during the initial construction. This was a secret, internal skeleton that had held the cathedral together for 850 years. This discovery shatters the myth of the Dark Ages. To build this, the medieval masons needed more than just hammers and chisels. They needed a pan-European logistics network to source the iron. They needed standardization to ensure every staple was identical in strength. These weren't just builders, the Mason guilds were the Silicon Valley of the 12th century, mastering physics and metallurgy that wouldn't be officially rediscovered for another 600 years. Consider the irony. Our modern steel and concrete buildings are lucky to last a century before the rebar begins to corrode. Yet this medieval iron survived centuries of dampness and a catastrophic fire, and it's still holding. On December 8, 2024, as the doors open again, we realize that Notre Dame isn't just a church or a museum. It's a testament to a level of genius we are only just beginning to understand. It stands as proof that even in our darkest hours, the light of human reason and the work of our hands can create something truly eternal. Well, friends, Notre Dame has proven that genius can survive through the ages. It's inspiring, isn't it? Share your impressions in the comments. Which discovery amazed you most? Like the video if you found it interesting. Subscribe to stay up to date with new exciting stories. And share the video so your friends can learn about this incredible secret.